Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Shavuot Mavorach. Today, Tuesday, the 30th day of the Omer, 15th day of Iyar, April 27th, 2021. Today's class graciously sponsored by our esteemed President, Eli Levy and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved grandfather, Eliyahu ben Simcha HaLevi. Yiratzon that to the words of Torah, his neshama will have an aliyah in Gan Eden. HaLevi. Yiratzon that to the words of Torah, his neshama will have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. For those watching live via iTorah.com, perhaps we will have to make a minor adjustment since we're resuming our recording live from the breakfast room with breakfast and a live audience. So instead of officially starting at 9:15, should be starting closer to 9:20, between 9:20 and 9:25 to give time to the 8:30 minyan to finish on a timely manner. So we'll start with the Sefirot of today. Today we have a major combination between Aharon HaKohen, which is the host of the week, and he welcomes Ishak Avinu alav shalom. As we learn in the second week of the Omer, the Sefirah of Ishak Avinu is all about restraint, discipline, self-control, and the attribute of judgment. And the Sefirah explains the follows. No one can deny that an area in life that a person can show self-control and discipline is in the way that a person speaks. You know, in English they say talk is cheap. Talk is not cheap. Talk is not cheap. Talk can be the source of blessing or, God forbid, the opposite. The lack of talking can expand the person's life. The choice of words and when to speak and when not to speak can determine how good the life of the person will be. If it's in the topic of Shalom Bayit, if it's in the interpersonal relationship. But I'd like to begin today's class with a fascinating Hidush from the one and only Gaon of Vilna in Even Shelema, chapter 7, sub-chapter 1. And it says as follows, that Bechol et, he says, every time she'en adam motze dabar mipiv, every time that a person has the opportunity to say something, but the person chooses not to say. Okay? Not to say. What happens? Zoche leor haganuz, she'en malach uberiya yecholim leta'er. The person merits such a godly light, says the Gaon of Vilna, that angels and humans cannot truly imagine it unless you are there. Perhaps we don't see it. Perhaps we don't see it. Okay, I hear restraint, self-control is beautiful. We don't see it, but Shamayim sees it. So with that being said, let's go quickly to the Usfartem Lachem. So it says, Midat Devora, the disciplinary behavior of a person that is connected with recognizing Hashem's presence. But it says that the presence of Hashem sometimes is channeled through blessing, but sometimes is channeled through judgment. We rather see Yad Hashem with blessing and kindness. But like it or not, part of life is also judgment. as the Pasuk writes, not the Pasuk, but the Mishnah writes in Masechet Berachot, כשם שמברכים על הטובה, כך מברכים על הרעה. God forbid. The same way that a person blesses God for good things, the person blesses God for difficult things. And what proof the Mishnah in Berachot brings? The famous Beracha that says, Dayan ha'emet, the true judge. There was a rabbi who was very makpid, not like me, but he was very makpid in being on time constantly. Whatever time it was, he will be there. And he was known for being this way, which is a great midah, by the way. Making others to wait not always is appropriate. Sometimes could be even a halachic problem. If a person is working and you're running late and you did not let him know that you're running late, and the person left the office earlier and he could have been working, so we need to be conscientious of something called in Jewish law, gezel. Gezel comes, which is not the topic of today, but since I'm speaking about it, I'll throw in a few words in the middle. Gezel, stealing, is not only related to money. Is gezel zeman, gezel shena, gezel mamon, genevat da'at. Gezel shena means disturbing someone that is sleeping. There was a case in Israel not long ago that somebody brought a group of people to the Bet Din. Shavua Tov, Hazak Baruch. To the Bet Din. What was the claim? Gezel Shena. They make a lot of noise, they make a lot of parties, they make a lot of protests, and the fellow happens to live on that street. And he said to the Bet Din, I'm not able to get up the next morning for tefillah. They wake me up crazy hours of the night. So there is such a thing. Remember the story, the Gemara, with Dama ben Netina, the goy who had, his father had a stone for the Hoshen Mishpat, remember? And when they came to buy it from him, he said, I cannot wake up my father because the key of the safe is under his pillow. Why Dama ben Netina did not wake up his father? Besides, Kaved et avicha ve'et imecha, obviously if your father tells you, please wake me up so I can go to the synagogue Shabbat afternoon, for example, that's fine. But if your father is sleeping, technically you should not wake him up. Children are experts in not allowing the parents to sleep. I'm telling you this from experience. Grandchildren too, at times, which I think some of you can relate. But bottom line, there is such a thing of disturbing somebody's sleep. I remember many years ago, crazy story, but funny in a way. Somebody sent me a shidduch profile. A shidduch profile today, 21st century, is very common that, somebody comes and asks you, a young man for my daughter, a young girl for my son. So what is the first thing that I ask, right? A shidduch profile. I want to know who I'm offering, who I'm talking about. So one of the questions in this shidduch profile, going back a few years, Baruch Hashem, that person finally found a husband. It was the question, how the young man behaves, listen to this question, in the dorm of the yeshiva. Those who go to the yeshiva system, you sleep in the yeshiva. I slept in the yeshiva for years. I used to come home, once every 2 weeks, once a month, sometimes once every 3 months, especially when my family moved overseas. But there is such a concept of dorming in the yeshiva. And this girl's question was, how is his behavior in the dorm of the yeshiva? So I read the question, I started to laugh. I asked myself, what kind of question is she asking? Does he wear pajamas when he falls asleep? Does he sleep with a kippah, with a sisit? I'm thinking as a man. So I send her a question and says, please be specific in question number 23. So imagine how many questions this form had. So she answered me back. When he comes into the bedroom where the other boys are sleeping, perhaps, or trying to go to sleep, does he turn on the light of the room or he turns the night table light? When I read that question, I understood what she was trying to say. If he's coming in, let's say all of us are sleeping in one room in the yeshiva, which it never happened, by the way. I think the maximum amount of students we had was 3 or 4. So what she was asking, he comes into the room, and the other 2 or 3 boys are sleeping. Does he turn on the light, like ignoring the 3 people wanting to sleep or already sleeping, or he's quiet and conscientious? This is the concept of Gezel Shena. Gezel Mamon, we understand, stealing of money. Then Genevat Da'at. Genevat Da'at is making believe that you're going to do something, but it's never your intention to do it. You understand? So you steal the mind of the person. Those are all problematics. So it comes and it says that many times we see in the weather, it was raining earlier today. Today is a beautiful day. But sometimes, especially for South Florida, as we are approaching the hurricane season soon, Be'ezat Hashem, but don't worry. Thank God, what Alam keeps an eye on us in a good way. Sometimes you hear lightning and thunder. What's the purpose of thunder? Besides the ecological and scientific reason why thunders exist, Ra'amim and Berakim, to remind us of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the reason you say the Beracha, Baruch Shekoho Ugborato Male Olam. Blessed be the one that his strength and his might fulfills the entire world. That is the blessing that we say. So that serves us like a reminder, like a jolt. What happens when you hear thunder? You jump, right? I think we all jump because it's unexpected. Why that happens? Just a reminder, God is around us. So going back to the story of this rabbi, who used to be very meticulous with time, not to steal from anybody's time, regretfully, a parent or a relative of his passed away that he needed to sit Shiva'ah for. They announced the funeral that say 10 o'clock. And since the town knew that this great rabbi was very makpid, was very meticulous on time, everyone came by 9:55. The whole shul was packed. 10 o'clock comes, 10:05, 10:10, 10:15, the rabbi does not show up. The assistant to the rabbi says to the gabbai of the shul, I'm going to go see what's going on with the rabbi. Maybe he doesn't feel well. So he goes to the rabbi's office and he sees that the rabbi is in the room looking at the window. So his assistant asked him, Hacham, what's going on? Why don't you come down? It says, the Mishnah in Shabbat, in Berachot says, the same way that you bless Hashem for a good reason, you bless Hashem for a negative reason. And I need to get ready to bless Hashem with the feelings of a good reason, even though I'm saying a beracha for a negative reason. You understand the message? Because the Mishnah says, Keshem You know what's the meaning of the way Keshem? Likewise. And that's exactly what we say in the Berit Milah. When we have a Berit Milah, what do we say? Keshem shechnasto laberit. Kach tachnisehu la Torah v'lachupa v'ma'asim tovim. The same language of the Mishnah we say in the Berit Milah. What do we say in the Berit Milah? The same way that this child was introduced in the Milah, he should be entered into Torah, Mitzvot, and Ma'asim Tovim. Now, why do we say such a blessing in the Berit Milah? So the short answer is that in the Berit Milah, the child doesn't get involved whatsoever. The child doesn't get involved. You don't ask the baby, do you like this menu? Do you want this mohel? Do you agree of this and that? You don't ask nothing. The parents do without external involvement, hopefully, and they do to the best of their abilities. So we're blessing the parents the same way that your child did not get involved in telling you what to do for his Berit Milah. May your child not get involved in what to do when it comes to his Bar Mitzvah and to the wedding. Let the parents plan it and let the child be happy. Obviously, it's easier. I know, I was about to say that. Maybe in theory, for 2,000 years it worked. Today, it's completely the opposite. Especially if the bride is your daughter, she wants to have a say, correct? In the flowers, in the menu, etc., etc., etc. One thing is for sure, and take it from personal experience as a husband and as a father. Men should not get involved in these settings. Right? You agree?
Only with the man.
That's just do rational, do with sechel. Obviously, don't be wasteful, but do it properly and celebrate the great moment. And it says as follows. You want to truly make sure that your praises and gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu are crystal clear. Belo yishletu bam zarim behitzonim. Let's say that a person wants to travel from, let's say, Miami to Orlando in your honor. Okay? How long? 3 hours? 3 hours. Are you going to get some part of the road that's going to be with traffic? Probably yes. It also depends on the hour of the day. But let's be realistic. Traffic is part of life. So when you drive or you put an address in your GPS or you put the address in Waze, what they give you? Fastest route. Be aware in 2 miles there is bumper to bumper traffic. Recalculating. Yani the chokhmah of Waze is basically to avoid the person sitting in traffic. That causes delay, that causes frustration, etc. It has a domino effect. So it says, Usfartem lachem, that when a person praises HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is not guaranteed that the praises that were uttered by the mouth of the person doesn't hit traffic. How does the Zohar calls this traffic? Hitzonim. You heard of this expression before? Hitzonim means external forces, outside external impurities that block the hoda'ah. Remember a week or two ago, we discussed the tzinorot shefa, we discussed the conduits of blessings, and many times these tzinorot shefa are blocked. So we learn that a person's mission is to unblock whatever gets stuck. So it says here, how do you remove the blockage? How do you go into the, how do you call this, express lane? How do you go into the express lane? And that's the reason why you pay a toll. Why you pay a toll on the express lane? To avoid traffic. How happy do you feel that when you see 95 north or south the regular lane is bumper to bumper, and you're going 30, 40 miles per hour, and there is no traffic. So it says, how do we remove this traffic that blocks the praises and the blessing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It says the same of the great Gaon of Vilna, להתגבר בלשמור את פיו ולשונו, and listen to the words. It says להתגבר, the midah of Gevura. The person must activate restraint and self-control to protect their biggest asset, which is the power of speech. Liyotam kele tahor. The person must make sure that the mouth is not contaminated. And this is not a new topic. Back in Perashat Shemini, we discussed how can the person's mouth become contaminated. And one of the answers given was by the consumption of non-kosher food. Okay? Easy. That's easy to understand. Today, we add one more reason. The way that how the person speaks. שבהם יקריב קורבן תודה לבורא יתברך בדיבורו. Everything is divine providence. Today, or usually on Tuesdays, we have a Spanish class via itorah.com. But today's class will not happen in the daytime, will happen at night. Because tonight we are approaching a milestone. Tonight, after 6 years or 7 years, we are arriving to chapter 100 of Tehillim. Which is the chapter 100? Mizmor LeTodah, the song of gratitude, which is said 6 days a week between Baruch She'amar and Yehi Chevod. And it says, when a person expresses their gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is a korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the time of the Bet HaMikdash, there was something called korban todah. What was korban todah? An offering of thanks. Not Thanksgiving turkey. Talking about gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it says, when you verbalize gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is comparable like if a person went to the Bet HaMikdash and offered a korban todah. But what was a mandatory requirement for any korban that was going to be offered? Korban ta'un bedika. The sacrifice require inspection. You know, sometimes you buy a suit or you buy a shirt or a pair of pants and you put your hand in your pocket and there is a tiny piece of paper that says inspected by 16, right? Basically, it's telling you that the worker did quality control. Hamavdil, in the Bet HaMikdash, quality control was mandatory. They needed to inspect the animal that it was not pagum or ba'al mum, that the animal did not have a physical blemish. Now, according to what we are learning today, the blemish today is much easier to achieve than in the time of the Bet HaMikdash. In the time of the Bet HaMikdash, the animal needed to have a physical blemish, meaning to say an action needed to happen in order for this animal to become defective. But in our case, how do we cast a blemish in our gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? According to what we are learning today, is if the source of the gratitude, which is the mouth of the person, is infected. How is infected? Option number one, what the person eats, the level of kashrut, kosher, not kosher, that what goes into our mouth. And the other way is what goes out of our mouth. What a beautiful message. And it says, Benimsa, and it says, Masig et hahod, the person is able to deliver a magnificent gift. Imagine yourself, you order from Amazon a gift to give to someone, and the box came wrinkled, which it happens, right? How do you feel? You feel comfortable giving this gift to the person? Not really. You order it from Amazon, thinking that the Hachamim of the packing company will do a good job. They will put maybe bubble wrap, or they will put, the styrofoam balls to protect the package. But that didn't happen. But it says that when you are able to deliver to a Kadosh Baruch Hu a gift of gratitude, you deliver in him the perfect package. No wrinkling, no scratch and dent, beautiful all the way around. How do we achieve to have such a beautiful gift? He says, Al yedei midat hagevura, by the person activating self-control when it came to the moment of speaking. I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm not saying that it's automatic. But for those that were here in Sunday's class, we discussed how the Torah goes the extra mile. Instead of telling me impure, tells me which is not pure. Instead of saying tameh, says asher enena tehora. Gemara in Pesachim. Instead of starting the first word of the first page with the word Lel Arba'a Asar, the night of the 14th of Nisan, we search the Hametz with the light of the candle. The Mishnah used Lashon Nekiya. The Mishnah used a clean word. What the Mishnah used? Or light. Because light is good. Darkness is fearful, is frightening. Darkness, there are two levels of darkness. One is the physical darkness of night. But how darkness exists? Darkness can exist only when light is missing. And that's why you have the rotation system between the sun and the moon, correct? The sun rises on the east and sets on the west. And when the sun travels to the west, the moon travels to the east. Once the sun is all the way on the other extreme, this whole area becomes dark. And that's the reason why in our daily prayers, in Shaharit and in Arvit, in both prayers, we say Shema. Shaharit we say Shema, and in Arvit we say Shema. But what happens after we finish Shema? In the morning prayers, we say 15 words of accolade and praises to Hashem. Beyasiv, Benachon, Bekayam, Beyashar, Benyeman, Beyahu, Behabib, Benehmad, Benaim, Benora, Beyadir, Tukam, Kubal, Betov, Beyafe. 15 words testifying godliness, presence, essence, eternity, beauty, etc. At night, what do we say after Shema? One word, Ve'emunah. At night, surrounded by darkness, the only thing that keeps us surviving the darkness of life, whatever today you can call it, Holocaust, terrorism, assimilation, and the pogroms, and all the tragedies that has been haunting the Jewish people for centuries, and Be'ezat Hashem, it will be all gone very, very soon, Be'ezat Hashem, is one word. Be'emunah kol zot bekayam alenu. It says, we are connected to an oxygen tank. And this oxygen tank is called emunah. And today, you can carry an oxygen tank in your pocket, as a bag. Today, you don't need to carry the 50-pound tank that hospitals have. Today, you have a portable oxygen. And that works out very well for the survival of the person. Let's continue. And it says, this comes from the Zohar Kadosh Perashat Puede, and I give you the straight English translation to avoid the Aramaic and Hebrew. That when a person utters from their mouth a negative word, let's say, God forbid, I'm sure that it doesn't happen, but let's say you mistreated someone verbally, or you curse at someone while talking on the phone in the parking lot, and then you run to the synagogue. I don't want to miss Kaddish. I don't want to miss Kedusha. What do you think it happens to the words of the Kaddish and the Kedusha that a person answered them? This is like you telling someone, go on top of a balloon and climb, and you call them balloon? The one that people go on top?
It's a... Air balloon.
Air balloon, thank you. Hazak, thank you very much. You're telling someone, air balloon is safe, but you know that has a hole. That the fabric has a hole on top. Sakana, right? The Zohar Kadosh says that the negative word infiltrates into the words of Kedusha, and they no longer carry the strength of Kedusha. It's like a bacteria, to make it less dramatic. A bacteria entered the Kedusha element, and what happens if bacteria comes in? Khalas. Can't do much about it. And therefore it says that through the proper wording, the person can activate the praises to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why it says, when you speak to your friend, Bemetek Sefatayim, utilize a sweet tongue, meaning to say a sweet way of talking, Ube'etzot tovot, and always try to give people good advice and encouragement, Ba'avodat Hashem Itbarach, encouragement the person developing a stronger bonding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she'en tova gedola mizot lanefesh belaguf, because there is no greater benefit to the person, the giver, and the recipient when things are delivered in a pleasant way and in a how do I say this? Upbeat manner. Beautiful. Let's see if there is any other message here. Correct. Correct. Another message. So we spoke between us and Hashem, the cleanliness of we talk, gratitude, etc. We spoke about people interaction. What about Ben Adam le'atzmo? It says that a person should try to avoid complaining. I'm not sure if it's realistic that a person will never complain. But complaining, in part, may be detrimental in many areas. And I'm not talking about customer complaint. Sometimes you use a service, you travel, you go to a hotel, you rent a car, you get a survey, right? You can answer the survey honestly, but do it tactfully. Okay? Maybe you did not have a good experience. But let's leave the business survey on the side. Let's talk about the relationship between husband and wife. We already know this for a fact, that complaints in marriage are not beneficial to the marriage, are not beneficial to the relationship. So somebody may say, so Rabbi, you can never say anything to your wife, you can never say anything to your spouse, for the ladies asking the question. So it depends who you ask. If you look in the book of Som Shalom Bayit, they tell you, avoid it as much as you can. And if you have to say something, pick and choose what you're going to say. Say it at the right moment. Say it with respect. Say it with love. And don't dwell on it. Don't dwell. Some people like to dwell on drama. Some people like, Dwell means yani, making a lot of hakafot, telling you 10 times the same thing. You can say one time, respectfully, out of love, and do the best that you can. I don't have the perfect formula. The perfect formula, according to what we are learning now, is make sure that you don't create a fame for yourself of being a complainer. Which there are people, regretfully, that are like that. Always kvetching. You go to a wedding, you ask them, how was the wedding? The music was too loud. I didn't ask you how loud was the music. I asked you conversational. How was the wedding? You should have told me, Baruch Hashem, I'm so happy for both of them. Beautiful, lively wedding. Chalas. Remember the story I said the other day? I think I said it in Sauda Shelishit. I'll say it now so it gets recorded. And I said this openly in public because I happen to be involved in this story. Many years back, someone invites me to their home. This happened before I got married. I was single, and somebody invites me to their home for Shabbat, which was common, especially for the boys from out of town, that the yeshiva on Shabbat would coordinate to have a homey experience, Shabbat lunch usually. So I was very thankful for the invitation, and Shabbat morning comes, we finish the tefillah in the synagogue, and then we go home. We sit down for Kiddush Hamotzi. The wife asks the husband, so, how was synagogue today? How was the knis today? I listened to the question. I said, okay, maybe she wants to talk. The husband gave a shiur of how was the synagogue. The husband said, the rabbi forgot to look at the clock. The Hazan thought that he was singing in the kotel. The Gabbai believed that today was Simchat Torah. He invited 12 people to the Sefer. The Zemirot were too slow. The Kiddush was okay. The more he was talking, the more I wanted to get up and leave. Because it didn't make me feel comfortable, to such a debriefing, right? How was shul? So guess what? In the afternoon, when we were heading back to shul, I said to this fellow, which was a bit older than me, I'm not happy with what I saw in your house today. I said, what? Everything was kosher. I said, yeah, everything was kosher. The Shabbat blech, beautiful Shabbat table. But why do you need to give to your wife a detailed report of what happens to your in the shul? I said, what's wrong? I was honest. That's what he tells me. I said, you may be honest, but what do you think your kids are listening to you talking like this about the synagogue? What is formulating in their brain? Oh, the synagogue is a boring place. The synagogue is a waste of time. I better stay late and wake up late and pray at home, so I don't have to go to the torture of a long speech and a lengthy hachamim. I says, how do you know my kids understood everything that I was saying? I said, I don't say this. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says it. How does the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot calls a child sfog, sponge. What happens if you put a sponge into wine? The fluid will be red. Into milk will be white. Into water will be clear. Same thing. What do you think? The kids don't understand? No, they are babies. They understand. Maybe not with a great amount of details of someone that is 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But the whole delivery, I told them. I don't even know where I got the strength to tell them this. I was maybe 16, 17 years old. What should I have done? He'd ask me. I said, one thing is for sure. Don't do again what you did today. He wasn't happy. He went to speak to the rabbi about me. He disrespected me, he said. He said, what did he do? He told me that what I said at home was wrong. I said, what happened at home? The rabbi said, then the rabbi called me. Says, he's right. So what should I do? My wife asks me. Tell her, beautiful. Nice Devar Torah, nice Tefillah, beautiful Hazanut, and that's it. And for the wonderful ladies watching or listening, don't take it as a criticism to the female gender. This is this particular lady that grilled the husband with all these type of questions. I don't even know why, but also, the pasuk says, to finish, the pasuk writes, Chokhmat Nashim Banta Beta. The wisdom of the wife builds the home. The wisdom of the wife builds the home. I'm not going to tell you the second half of the verse.
It's a myth.
Of course. And that's why King David in the book of Tehillim says, Akeret Habayit. Akeret means two meanings, positive and negative. Akeret means Ikar, the main foundation, or God forbid, Akeret means the uprooter, the one that destroys. So that's why the pasuk says, Em habanim semecha. But if the mother, meaning to say the wife, is happy, the home is happy, the children are happy, and who is upon whom to make sure the wife is happy? It's a pasuk in the Torah, Mesimach et ishto. Part of the responsibilities of a husband is not only to be a good provider, it's also to bring happiness to the wife, whatever that level of happiness means. We express our gratitude again to our president for sponsoring the class Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved grandfather, Eliyahu ben Simcha Halevi. We'll say Shavua Tov to all the wonderful audience that is physically with us present, as well as to the wonderful audience of iTorah.com. Shavua Tov u'mevorach. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia Omer.